Ralocha and welcome to my channel. My name is Polo Madala. If you are a returning subscriber, I really appreciate your support. And if you're here for the first time, we welcome you to our family. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So today we are reviewing a book. This is our first book review, and the title of the book is When Hope Whispers, and it is Zoleka Mandela's autobiography. So I've been following Zoleka Mandela for quite some time on Instagram, and I've just been enjoying her posts. You know, she's one of those people who post an image with that long caption, and I've just been reading her captions and enjoying her content on Instagram. She also likes posting videos of her and her trainer, and there are dance videos there, and I've just been enjoying watching that. As I continued following her, I realized that there's more to the story, and I found out that she's also an author, and I was interested in getting the book. That's what drew me to her story, basically the Instagram post. So in this book, Zoleka shares a story about her drug addiction, her sex addiction, and loss of loved ones, and with also the main focus of the book focusing on breast cancer. She was diagnosed with breast cancer, and in the story she then takes you through her treatment of cancer and how she survived breast cancer. So in the first couple of chapters of the book, she shares a brief history of her family. So Zoleka Mandela is the grandchild of South Africa's first Black democratic president, Nelson Mandela, and also anti-apartheid activist, Winnie Mandela. So she is the granddaughter. She shares a brief history about the family, and in the first 3 chapters, you see how her family story is really intertwined with the history of our country. Her grandparents, her parents as well, are really active in the struggle against apartheid. And then in the 3 chapters, you really get exposed to the effect that apartheid had on Black families and how apartheid really affected family dynamics, you know, of Black families. This story brings it closer to you. In terms of family dynamics, fathers could not be fathers because some of the people were arrested during the time, and her grandfather is also arrested. Her grandmother is also arrested at some time, and you know, the family is really involved in the anti-apartheid struggle. And you know, she was born at a time whereby things were really tense. There was a lot of violence. This is the 1980s. There was a lot of violence in the country, and there was a lot happening in terms of the anti-apartheid struggle. You see then in the story how the history of the country is really affecting her life. And because of all the things that are happening during that time, Zoleka finds herself moving around from one place to the other, and she finds herself living with her aunt Zinani, and her mother is really active in the struggle against apartheid as well, and she is longing for her mother. That is really what then leads her to having this void that needs to be filled, and this is what also draws her to start experimenting with drugs. And I'd like for us to get into the book and just to read one of the passages where she's talking about her drug abuse. So this is page 66 of the book. It says, "It was guaranteed wherever we went there'd be a dealer a few minutes away for making a drop, and there was a routine to how we used the drugs. Once we'd pick them up, I would place them in my weave or in my bra in case cops stopped us. Chances were that male police officers wouldn't search me. In the car, we used our bank cards to cut cocaine on the back of a CD, each of us eyeing the cover to check that whoever was cutting the lines was being both generous and fair as they distributed the cocaine between whoever of us wanted it. Corner to corner, coast to coast, we'd laugh and say, especially when we would use the corner of the bank card to scoop up enough cocaine from a bag to snort. So this is really what is happening in her life. She's meeting all these characters and she's looking for love. She is trying to fill this void that has been there, for some time because of the absence of her mother in her life and everything that is happening around her family. As you continue with the book, then she also shares the story of her tragedies that happened in her life. This book is really about loss, She is losing loved ones. So in 2010, South Africa was hosting the World Cup and everyone was in a very happy mood. Everybody was in a celebratory mood. We were celebrating, the country was celebrating, and the world was here to experience South Africa and all it has to offer. And this is when Zoleka Mandela then loses her daughter. And I'd like for us to go to page 77. Page 77, this is where 75. This is where she talks about the death of her daughter. It says, in the early hours of 11 June 2010, I woke up to my father, my aunt Zinani, and my brother Zondwa walking into my hospital room. They told me they had come to take me home. There had been a car accident. My only daughter, Zinani, had been killed. I don't remember anything else after my aunt and brother told me that. The last time I ever saw her was during that dreadful night when she had come to say goodbye after I had tried to burn myself alive. So when I read this, it was really difficult to read. And this is not the only loss that she experiences in her life. So the big focus of the book is her story about cancer. She's diagnosed with breast cancer, and then the book now gets into her chemotherapy, the treatment, And guys, each time you watch, if you have watched cancer movies, they really try and give you that message that chemotherapy is a very painful and difficult treatment. And through this book, you really learn that it is intense. And she really gives you a whole lot of information about chemotherapy. I learned quite a whole lot about chemotherapy through this book, and she takes you from session to session. And I think in the first 2 sessions, I felt like I was asking myself, why didn't you just combine and make a summary of the chemotherapy sessions? But as I continued reading, I understood why, because with every chemotherapy session, there's a story around it. She shares stories about exactly what was happening in her life around that time, So I then understood. So what I appreciate most about this book is that there's a lot of research and there's a lot of, you can see that she documented a lot of her experiences, In the chemotherapy section of the book, it feels like you are reading a medical book because you get every information about the medication, the side effects, the dosage, the name of the medication, So it's very informative. In terms of lessons that I learned from this book, I learned to appreciate life. It's almost like a cliche when they say that life is not guaranteed and tomorrow is just not guaranteed. But I think some of us, it's something that we really take for granted. And through reading this book and reading everything that she went through, I started appreciating life, I just went back to my own life and started thinking about just life. And there's so many things that I need to be grateful for. Good health, waking up every day and feeling good, you are not sick, you've not been diagnosed with anything. It's something some of us really take for granted. And through this book, you learn that, it's something to really appreciate. And another lesson that I learned is to value family. Her family was there for her throughout. Her aunt Zinani is really a key figure in her story. And, they are there for her, and the grandmother as well. They're there, and the partner as well. So appreciating family is also something that I took from this book. And another thing is that sometimes when you think about the people who are from these influential families, or just people who are from maybe wealthy families as well, rich families as well, we think of them as having like a silver spoon and life. We think that their lives are just easy, And through this book, we learn that, people are going through stuff. It doesn't matter who you are. People have problems, I think for me, you learn to be compassionate. In terms of some of the themes that I think could be explored further, that would be her relationship with her mother. She did mention in the book that she had a difficult relationship with her mother. I think that is a story that could be explored further. She lost her mother in 2020. Yes, in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. And I think if she's going to write another book, that's one of the themes that I'd like to learn more about, How does she feel about her relationship with her mother now that she's no more? Maybe some of the things that she wishes that she could have done, because in one of her posts following her mother's death, she says, "It's been 11 months since we last spoke, 2 months since your passing. If I had one more day with you, I'd love you better." So that's what she wrote on Instagram. And I'd like to find out from the partner as well, her partner at the time, just how was he able to support her throughout, and some of the difficulties that he encountered in terms of offering her support. There's a story there. And another thing would be the son, who has always been there, a figure in the story. How did he feel as he was watching his mother battle all these things that have happened? She has gone through a lot of tragedy. This book can be quite a trigger. Before you read it, I'd like for you to just give yourself time and perhaps evaluate where you are psychologically, and just check where you are first before you start reading it, because she goes through a lot, and it could trigger some emotions. Because for me, I really found it so difficult to read, Depending on how sensitive you are, it's like you go through all the pain with her as you read. And I've had to give myself time in terms of reading. There were days that I just couldn't touch the book because there was just a lot happening in the book. I really suggest that you do get the book, because there's a silver lining, So recently, Zoleka Mandela was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and she announced this on Instagram. I wish you recovery. I wish you all the strength in terms of dealing with this. In your book, you said that the main aim of you writing this book was to inspire other people who are going through the same things. Some of the things that you wrote about, I haven't gone through, but I've learned so much from your story, and I feel like it's a story that is going to help so many people who are battling substance abuse, who are battling all these other things that you went through. And yeah, we will keep you in our prayers. That is it from me. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Please follow me at Polo Mandela on Facebook, at Polo_Mandela on Instagram, and at Mandela Polo on Twitter. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and take care of yourself.